I'm a parathyroid tumor and I live in your neck. I'm a funny little jerk, but I'll make you a wreck. Para means close to that other famous gland, but don't confuse me with your thyroid, son. I'll get out of hand.
Well, I was originally inspired to do a workshop in Regina a few years ago when I was artist in residence at the film pool to teach local artists about puppets for filmmaking using live puppets.
Puppetry for me, it's brought me a lot of opportunities with telling a story. One of the reasons I got into puppetry is because in my visual arts practice and printmaking, there were certain stories I wanted to tell, such as my grandfather's story of being beat up by a goose. And there wasn't a great way to get that narration across. What I really needed was his audio and his voice telling the story, and then a moving image to combine together. And so puppetry for me was an opportunity to tell stories in a way that I wanted.
What was great about it is I could have probably about 15 locations and actors of different ages and a lot of movement out in the prairie, and I could do that all in a small studio with 4 other artists, and we made this film.
So the Prairie Puppet Underground was born out of the folks that were working on the puppet films when I was the artist in residence at the film pool. So after the first Ipuff, which was such a huge success, we decided that we wanted to continue doing puppets and doing more work around puppets and in Regina, and to build towards an ongoing biannual festival. There are a lot of festivals that focus on animation, and there aren't very many festivals that focus specifically and entirely on live-action puppetry.
Puppet films have a kind of a quirkiness to them, at least the ones that we've been working on. So it's definitely interesting, definitely challenging to work on a puppet film and make it relatable to an audience of non-puppets. But definitely one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life is working on puppet films, either shooting or editing.
And I think there's something about the live action that it has a nice breath to it that stop motion maybe doesn't always get. If it's done tremendously well, you can see that, but sometimes there's a breath and a life in the puppet that I think is missing.
There's something really charming about live action puppets. They're kind of janky, they're kind of, they can be kind of crude, but they're also alive. They're not stilted like stop motion animation or computer animation. They're real people operating things in real time. And so there's a whole other sort of strange, uncanny feeling that comes from puppet films that I find really appealing.
My film this year in the festival is called Fade to Gray, and it was brought on. I've been working a lot with senior citizens in the community and doing art projects with them, and one of the common denominators with all of the seniors was, you know, sometimes a sense of loneliness and an idea of being isolated and not necessarily having all the people around you that you once did. And so I made a film about an older woman who lives across the street from a bus stop.
So I was the cinematographer and editor for Rowan Pantel's puppet film called Fade to Gray. Right now this is just an outtake where I just happened to capture Rowan interacting with some of the puppets on set.
Because he was the art writer? but actually he just used to be the sports bird. And he compared a show one time that they did to a NASCAR race.
Yeah, it's different than working with normal actors. Puppets can be pretty silly on set. You're kind of talking to the puppet, but also talking to the puppeteer, so it can get a little punchy on set for sure.
I made my first puppet film this year to be included in the festival and to premiere at the Calgary Animated Objects Festival. And it was a trip. I had this story that had been sort of gifted to me, and I thought it needed to be told. The story came from this project that Commonweal had put on about talking with seniors and getting them to make art projects based on some of their life history and stories. And I went and saw a final product exhibit of some of these and talked with this one gentleman, Dennis Lefebvre. He was telling this story in a little diorama about how he had grown up in Sedley and during the war times, and him and a friend went and collected metal to try and help the war, but also to, recycle it to get the money from it. And I really enjoyed his story and the way he told it. One of the tenets of some of my puppet training was the three rules of puppetry, which were: rule number 1, your puppet will break; rule number 2, your puppet will break; and rule number 3 is know how to fix your puppet. I originally started creating puppets out of metal. I was using beer cans and turning them inside out and gluing them together and things, and the process became quite overwhelming because the deadlines were approaching. And so at the end of the day, what I ended up doing was just deciding on shadow puppetry, so cutting shapes out of black paper and rigging them up so they can move.
So we went through the back alleys of Sedley with our little wagon and we searched for iron and small gears from the farm and angle iron and things like that, The throwaways,
So the film that I have in the festival this year is called Parathyroid Punk. And I had been sick for over a decade with an illness that was a mystery illness that no one could identify. I went to 20 different doctors over 10 years trying to figure out why I was having seizures and cognitive difficulties and a whole host of other issues. And finally, I had a blood test, and my doctor realized that I had a parathyroid tumor. It wasn't cancerous, it's just a tumor that grew in my neck that had this incredible impact on my entire system. And I just pictured this little punk tumor in my neck, just like bragging about all the hell he causes in the body and all the damage he does to every organ. And so it was kind of cathartic.
I'm a tiny little jerk, but I'll make you a wreck. Para means close to that other famous plant. Confuse it with your thyroid son. I'll get out of it.
We want to present puppets and puppetry as an art form that has a much broader scope than just being children's entertainment. Puppets traditionally tell stories of the big mysteries of death, of God, of the meaning of life.
I hadn't really thought about child rearing in that sense. In fact, I hadn't thought about it much. I only got as far as, well, I'm not ready right now, so I'll just put that off until later. I guess later was during that awkward silence I was trying to get out of.
We're really looking at an opportunity to find ways for, to take puppetry not away from kids, but to give some of it back to adults.
If you have program ideas that you'd like to see on Max TV Local On Demand, write us at max.local@sasktel.com. Max TV programming is now available on Max TV on the Go at maxtvonthego.sasktel.com.